talked at the beginning of this clip that anything over a 4.7 is kind of like that trust number
for the consumer.
If you've got nothing but 5-star reviews and you only have 5 of them, it works against you.
Really?
Then it's a distrust because they're like, nobody's that good.
All right. The reason you are Googling and searching YouTube right now is because either you own short-term rental properties or you're trying to get into that game, and that's why you came across this video. I am Chris Pesek. I'm a broker and real estate agent in Dripping Springs, Texas, which is right outside of Austin, Texas, in the Texas Hill Country. And I am here with the CFO, the CMO, the CLO, the CPO of product placement, I Love Vacations, Jodi Cleer. Jodi, thank you.
Thank you.
As always. Guys, this is an ongoing series, right? We've had a bunch of different videos at this point, and it's going to go on until we can give you all of the information that you need for running a successful short-term rental. And honestly, if you can't run it yourself, that's why Jodi's doing this, because she manages short-term rentals, 700 doors at this point in the Western U.S. and Hawaii, and what's the country outside of the U.S.?
Cabo.
No, it's not a country, but yeah, Cabo. Thank you. So she has a huge amount of knowledge, which is why I've got her with us.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let's talk reviews and your online reputation. I think I've seen, and you've mentioned. I mean, everybody gives 5-star reviews now, right? Like that's just a thing.
Oh, I wish that was the case.
Are you're saying that in a way that makes me think that people are very hard to please?
Yes, can't make everybody happy. I think that's how the saying goes.
Yeah. I mean, we can take it from the top, I guess. Just why are reviews important?
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll kind of get into the culture of reviews and just how, as a society, reviews have changed. Reviews are important. We know that 84% of people before making an online purchase look at reviews and they trust their peer reviews. It's extremely important. People read them and they trust them. We also know that less than 10% of the people actually leave reviews. So we've got people who love to read them, but we have people who don't want to write them.
Well, that tells you something about the experiences they're having.
Correct. Well, and most people, they either don't feel good about sharing a review, or they now use the review as a weapon to get a refund or to get something out of you. So
wait, what?
I know. Go figure. But as a society, customer service has trained the consumer to barter and to leverage that review.
Because they know it's important.
They know it's important. And we know even, the big boxes are doing it. They're like, please leave us a review and we'll give you this. Well, in our industry, it's highly looked down upon to offer any incentive to do that. And it's actually against Airbnb and Vrbo policy for the guest to threaten a bad review with a refund. So it's against their policy. So, but we know as a general rule, people are pretty honest. Yeah. And reviews are good. And they tell us a lot about the property that a description won't. So this house was perfect for a large family. This was a really quiet place. I had a hard time finding it. The 2 top reviews that we see the most are the kitchen was very well equipped and the beds and the pillows were amazing. Those are the 2 things that I think we see as a common theme over and over again. We also know that anything above about 4.7 stars is considered perfect in the eyes of the consumer.
Oh, wow.
Because consumers know that not everybody is easy to please. And, some people are going to leave reviews. But let's talk about what you do when you get a good review or a bad review. Okay. Because it's not just about the review, it's about how you respond to the review.
So that brings up the first question. Do y'all respond to every review that comes in?
What do you think?
I'm going to say no.
You're wrong.
I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Every review gets a response.
If they took the time to write the review,
that's a good point.
I'm going to take the time to appreciate and respond the review.
That's a good point.
It's only polite.
Okay.
It's only polite
we
to
are from
write
Texas after all.
That's right. Mind your manners.
That's right.
So, even if it's a bad review, you want to respond with how you fixed the issue or the problem.
Okay.
Or you might want to explain your side of the story.
Right.
Because sometimes I think I've seen a couple of those memes where there's a sandwich board outside and it says, Cheryl from Cincinnati said it's the worst coffee she's ever had. Come on in, So you can't make everyone happy, but you can explain your side of the story.
Right. Okay.
Someone writes and says, "Oh, it was horrible. I couldn't do anything, and the air conditioning wasn't working or the heater wasn't working." Well, yeah, it was snowpocalypse and nobody had power.
I remember that story.
So we have bad reviews where someone's like, "We didn't have water, we didn't have power. This place was awful." And I'm like, "Well, the whole state didn't have water or power. We apologize that we couldn't accommodate you during this national disaster." So you've got to explain your side of the story. Or if someone says, "The coffee maker didn't work. Thank you for bringing this to our attention. We have purchased a new coffee maker and now the issue is fixed." So letting the potential guests know that issue has been resolved.
And I'm gonna take a really quick detour on this because I think one of the first times that you and I talked a couple of years ago now, you as a property manager take a little bit different approach than I've seen some other people take, where if somebody tells you, whether it's in a public review or in a private comments, that something maybe even not necessarily broken, but just not working appropriately, you guys there's one solution for y'all.
Yeah, so fix it.
Fix it.
Well, and I think also kind of what you're leaning towards is if someone has a suggestion.
Yep.
Like, I wish this house had more pool toys. Your reply is, "Done. Thank you for your suggestion. We went out and bought 10 new pool toys and noodles. And, we hope that you will come back and we can't wait to spoil you the next time because now we have those pool toys." The other hot topic right now that is going on is AI.
Okay.
And using AI to respond to reviews. And I will tell you, it's amazing because if you're responding to a bunch of reviews, it's kind of like, okay, now what do I say? Because people are reading review after review after review.
And that's what I was going to say. The response about the pool toys is brilliant because other people were reading through and going, "Holy hell, somebody wanted more pool toys than they provided it."
Right.
Like, that's great for the people that are thinking about staying.
Yeah. But you also can't reply to every review with, "Thank you for your 5-star review. We hope to see you next time."
Yeah.
Right? Because then people know it's templated and it's not sincere. So using ChatGPT or Jasper or any of the AIs that are out there, you can literally type in, "I got this review on Airbnb. How should I respond?" Bam. It creates a whole entire response. And it's amazing, some of the responses. Copy paste. Now you want to go back, read it, make sure that it applies. But it's unique, genuine, and heartfelt. You can even tell the tone that you want that reply to be in.
Well, what a lot of people don't realize is ChatGPT or Jasper, you've got an account. And so as you adjust things over time and ask it to, "No, I don't really like that, do this," it learns how you think and it applies that to what it's giving you for those responses. So it really is a Jodi response or an I Love Vacations response.
Yes. And it, for those of you who are not exactly creative or feel like you're not really good with grammar or, any of that, it tells you, I want to take a hospitality tone. I want to take an excited tone, whatever that may be, it takes on that persona. So it assists because a lot of us are procrastinators when it comes to responding to this.
And then you sit down and you've got 50 of them to respond to.
Yeah. And you want to do it in real time because if someone left, 2 days later, you want to be able, 24 hours later, you want to be able to respond to that. And it shows promptness. It shows that every review, whether it's a good review or a bad review, and if it's a good review, you can even respond and say, "We agree. It is a great place for families," because especially if that is on Google or even Airbnb, they scan those and they look for keywords. And then if Airbnb, someone's searching for family-friendly properties, now that all your reviews say good for families, good for families, good for families, guess what? You're going to pop up in their algorithm.
It's SEO optimization for the reviews.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So that is kind of the importance of the reviews coming in and responding to them. Okay. How do we encourage reviews if only 10% of the people are leaving them?
There
And we
are,
can't bribe them.
yeah, there's little tricks that we use. So we all know there's a check-in and a check-out time.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of times you'll get a special request for an early check-in or a late check-out. We use this as an opportunity to turn on the charm and the customer service and say, you know what? We would be honored to offer you an early check-in because we know you're arriving early from the airport. Just please remember that when you're writing the review for us, that we did that for you. Same with the late checkout. More than happy to do that. Do you mind leaving us a review? It's as simple as asking
for it.
if you have to go to the home anytime during the stay, maybe you're taking a package that arrived or they ran out of coffee or you're bringing extra toilet paper, use that as an opportunity to ask them, how is everything going? You want to, head up any issues that they had right away. Because there's a lot of times you'll get a review that says, oh, we did have an issue, but they promptly fixed it right away because issues happen.
Yeah.
Things break, things are missing. It's a house.
Right. Yeah.
Things are going to happen, but how you responded to that is a different way. And then again, asking for the review. Now, Airbnb and Vrbo have a way of prompting the guests to leave that review, right? But you have to leave a review first.
Right. Hey, I love vacations, left a review for you. In order to see their review, leave one of your own or something.
Correct. So you have to leave the review first. And remember, there's a time window. It's 2 weeks on Airbnb, and I believe it's 3 weeks or 21 days on Vrbo. So you do first. It asks you both at the same time. It'll ask the host and the guest at the same time. But once you leave one as the host, it sends another prompt. It's like, do you want to see what they said? You have to leave one too. But if you're not leaving one for them, then they're not getting that second prompt.
Right. Okay. So let me ask you this, because with the management company that we just fired,
it wasn't us.
It was not I Love Vacations. They do not, much to my chagrin and not due to my lack of trying, they don't handle properties in our markets. Just going to say that. Yet. How do you handle a guest that, I mean, it's easy to leave a review for a guest that was awesome and had said great things in the messaging and all this other stuff. But let's say you've got a guest that was a giant pain in the ass. Do you want to leave that review first?
If you think they were a pain in the ass, they probably thought you were too.
More than likely.
Right. So there was some type of conflict, or there just was a personality clash. Something wasn't going on. So again, instead of leaving a review, you just mum's the word. And like, if we don't say anything, you won't say anything.
That's okay.
Right?
That was my point. So maybe you don't always leave that first review. Okay. Now let's take that to the next step. They were a giant pain in the ass. They left a review. You get that, hey, by the way, Jodi left a review for you. And you know that thing is toxic. Okay. How do we handle that?
I think the host community really depends on peer evaluations.
Okay.
And just as you would rate your Uber driver without fear of retribution, I think it's our responsibility to point out the bad players.
Okay.
Because as an industry, we sometimes get a bad rap for things like wild parties and crazy things going on. And so it's our responsibility to point out the bad players out there for the good of everyone.
Yeah,
right?
Because if somebody was in my place and wrecked it, then if they're wanting to rent your place, you need to see that review. So it's okay. There you go.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I figured, but just wanted to kind of have that out with the people who are watching right now.
Also, because there are a lot of refund requests that happen with those types of reviews. If you leave a glowing review for them and they leave a horrible review, when that case goes to the Airbnb rep to decide who's at fault or where's the blame, and you're like, no, they were perfect guests, and they're like, hey, they never responded to my phone calls, they didn't return. I mean, I've seen all kinds of things. They're going to side with the guest in that dispute.
What do those arbitrators do? And I call them arbitrators. I know they're not really, but what do they do if somebody gives you a bad review and you just don't respond, is it still the same thing? Like you didn't respond, it's your fault.
Well, in the case of like a dispute where money is involved
Mhm.
or damages are involved, if you don't respond, you lose your case,
Yeah.
right? And you have
Okay.
to do it back. But um, anytime something like that happens, photographic proof is the way to go. It's probably a whole
Okay.
nother session we
A
could do.
whole well, but real quickly, and I think I know where you're going with that. You basically have your cleaners when they walk in and see something that should not be, immediate photos into you guys, and that goes to Airbnb or
We actually employ inspectors. So we
okay.
have a two-step process. So the inspectors go in, then the housekeepers go in. So the inspectors are the ones taking photographic proof of everything. Even if it's like extra dirty, you have the opportunity to charge an additional cleaning charge
Hmm.
if people are just absolutely gross,
Right.
above and beyond.
We, I'm thinking about this. We probably should do a video about some of the interesting things you've seen and that I've seen.
I'll just
Let's just say that we have on our Ring camera the cops hauling people away in their underwear, not from a party, but just being arrested.
A Ring doorbell camera is just fun. I
Oh,
mean,
they are.
I've got celebrities who are out in the country in Texas and feel like, that might be the appropriate place to do things. It's like every bathroom in the house must have been in use, and so you decided to go out the front porch, and
I mean,
and
it
you
is
happen to be
Texas.
a
Yeah.
celebrity, and I do have things, but I can't name names,
No, yeah, obviously.
but I do have those things.
That's very fun. And plus, you get pictures of bears.
Oh, I do. I have fun pictures of bears and skunks and deer and armadillos, foxes, lots of wildlife on those cameras. Lots of wildlife.
One of ours, a mom and her two cubs had learned to use the stairs coming down from around the house, so that was their path because that was easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Well, but that makes for good reviews too,
It
right?
does. You
So,
post those, yeah.
well, and we've had people who left reviews. They come out here to the hill country and they're like, "Oh, there were deer." And I'm like, "Yes, there are a lot."
And we're laughing because they're everywhere. They're like almost like fire ants.
Yeah,
They're
they
everywhere.
they are everywhere, but that's the reason they come. And so when
Right.
people leave those things in the review, you're creating an idea of what that vacation's get. You're romanticizing
Right.
that house. Having deer has nothing to do with the
Nope.
house whatsoever, but people will be like, "Ooh, we want to see a deer too."
And that goes back to the last video where we were talking about kind of that niche property and things like that. But it just occurred to me now with reviews, we've got a property that we purposely built a deck on one side of the house because that's where the sun comes up in the mountains and it's beautiful. And so many people leave reviews about it. And that's the thing, right? Responding, yes, that is. There are peaceful mornings and great spots for coffee, and the sunset deck is amazing and the views are amazing. Even though I don't, do these people live in the middle of Nebraska that they think the views are amazing because they're really not. No offense to Nebraska folks, but it's kind of flat the times I've seen it.
Well,
Like,
yeah, to that same point, we have deer feeders.
yeah, in front of this one,
We
yep,
have deer feeders in our house because that will bring the deer
that's right,
in. And again, the Ring camera, I see people, girl, let's be quiet. Let's sneak up on with they're from the city
right.
and they want to share that. I mean, and it's grandparents with their little
Oh,
grandchildren,
that's
like
cool.
having that moment together. And that's what a vacation rental is about. It's about
It is.
creating those memories. And if you can get
It's like a
people in their reviews to talk about those memories, you're golden.
That's like a Verbo commercial right there. Like you just gave them their if you see a commercial that uses that, tell them they owe her money
Yeah, for sure,
because it
for
really
sure.
is.
The only thing we haven't talked about, and I know we're coming to the end of this little session here, but we didn't talk about Superhost.
We need to time out on Superhost
Okay,
because what I was going to ask you one other thing on reviews
okay.
because I haven't seen it in here, but I know somewhere there is a guest book in here.
Oh yes, we are in a vacation rental right now.
We are in a vacation rental in Dripping Springs, Texas. Um, your guest book because I've noticed that what gets written in that guest book is heartfelt. And I mean, like people will dump their stories into there. The reviews are a little bit different. how do you use the guest book for anything? The stuff that's written in there, is that something that y'all utilize?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the guest book is not only a home manual
Well,
because that tells people, but it also is full of local tips. Everything from where to eat, what are the best trails, what is the best way to get around town, like who delivers pizza way in the heck out here, and can I get an Uber? I mean, all of those frequently asked questions are in that book. And we've even contributed to the book based upon reviews that people have left.
right,
Because the way that me and my family use the house might be different than the way that you use
right,
the house,
right,
and for different purposes. And I may not be interested in skeet shooting or doing different things, but that might be your jam,
right,
right? And
right,
so you're like, hey, did you know that there is pickleball courts less than a mile from here? And I'm like, I've never played pickleball.
right.
So using the reviews as suggestions to build out that guest book is nice. Now other people will leave an actual book for reviews.
For like and that's more what I was talking
Oh,
about.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
So
it's fine because you're right about using those reviews to build out the guest manual, the house manual.
yeah, the only thing about that book is you have to read it frequently
Hmm.
because people will leave
Well,
weird things too.
yeah,
So or they leave pictures. So you can't just have the book sitting there because then things will get written in it. But the sad thing about that is that book's not shared online anywhere.
okay, so there's my point. So I'm gonna give you the thought that I have that I haven't been able to execute because we're not with we're not with our properties and the management companies. There's so much going on, they can't do this. But my thought is, from a social media perspective, taking pictures either of that, posting that on Instagram, TikTok, all of that stuff. It can be on stories like, hey, this is what was left, or even just taking pieces, snippets of it and posting that almost like, hey, Jodi from Dripping Springs said this, and it's not a necessarily review in Airbnb, but for social media, I would think that could be very valuable.
Yeah, absolutely. We use a program called Canva
Yep.
that creates those overlays
Yeah.
of the reviews over the picture of, and your property manager, all you got to do is ask them, hey, next time you're in there, will you take a couple of pictures of it on your phone and text them to me?
And
And
you can do it. Yeah.
yeah, if they're good, they'll do it for you.
And I'm bad because I've probably got from the two properties that we have, I probably have 150 pictures of people that had written in there,
Wow.
and I haven't done anything with them yet.
Yeah, that's the other part. You got to do something with them. But
Okay.
the book is nice. But I'll tell you, I was on a panel at our Vacation Rental Managers Association meeting, the international one in Orlando just a month ago, and I was on a panel about funny stories, and one of them was actually about the guest book, and it was something that had happened to us in one of our properties, and it literally says, loved the shower. These four women and one guy had a bang up time. We hope that you do as well. So that's the rated G version of what it really said. So that is the reason you need to go in and someone needs to be monitoring it, because if we just politely ripped that page out, now it's in the office on the wall because we all think it's great.
And
but
I mean,
I don't think the next guest would think that that's
probably
great.
not. But you know what? I'm sure at some point on social media that would make a viral post.
Yeah,
That would be great.
It was great, but like I said, the next guest may not think it's that funny,
exactly,
right?
exactly.
Or they might be like, "Hey, I hope they
Gross.
disinfected
Yeah.
this
That
this
makes
place."
sense. Okay, Superhost and Premier.
Yes. So the way that those are created is through a point system, right?
Okay.
So Airbnb and Vrbo both have point systems that say, and they have certain criteria as to how you earn that status.
Okay.
They're very transparent about that, but one of them is reviews.
Okay.
And so getting back to our reviews, it's very important that you have good reviews, because if you have bad reviews, you're never going to get Superhost status. And so the other is like response time.
Mm-hmm.
How long does it take you to respond? Cancellation policy. Have you canceled on people? You're only allowed, less than a 10% cancellation on Airbnb. And if you only have 10 reservations and you had to cancel one, guess what? You're no longer Superhost status. Yeah. And then it also takes time. It looks at it every 3 months on Airbnb. Okay. as to can you re-earn that Superhost status. But the benefits of being a Superhost, which of course we are Superhost,
Of course you are.
is that you're going to appear first in the search. And some people, it's it's trust badge, what they call a
Right.
trust badge,
Yeah.
and they will only rent with Superhost because there is, whether we want to admit it, not, there's fraud out there. There are duplicate listings. You have to be careful about people saying, mail me a check or I'm going to send you a wire. There's just weird stuff that goes on out there. Now, they've done a really good job of finding those things, but that Superhost badge really gives the guest a sense of security, and rightfully so, with renting with someone who has that Superhost status. But reviews play a big, big part in that.
Yeah, because I'm assuming if your reviews drop below a certain point, and I've heard Airbnb is at 4.8 or 4.85 or something.
I don't know. That's a really
That's
good
what
question.
I've heard.
It's probably about
know.
4.5 or 4.6.
Okay.
And you're on Airbnb, you're rated on multiple things, everything from cleanliness to check-in instructions, value, trustworthiness. Did it match the description? Did it match the pictures? So you're judged on, I think, about 8 different bullet points there.
Well, that's a great thought, because if somebody gives you a 5-star rating, is that just the overall rating, or does that take into account all of the 8 individual ratings as well?
Yeah, it's a blended score of those 8 different categories.
Okay. And I'm assuming even like if one of them's a 4 and the rest of them are 5, it's still a 5-star review.
No, it's like a 4 point.
Is it really?
4.8 star.
So in order to get a 5-star, it's got to be 5 across the board.
Across the board.
I didn't realize that. Okay.
Yeah. So there are some people out there that they're very proud of their 5 stars. Now, again, I think you remember we talked at the beginning of this clip that anything over a 4.7 is kind of like that trust number
for the consumer.
If you've got nothing but 5-star reviews and you only have 5 of them, it works against you.
Really?
Then it's a distrust because they're like, nobody's that good. So unless you have hundreds of 5-star reviews, then it becomes believable. But there's like this breaking point where people are like, yeah, their friends wrote those.
Gotcha.
Interesting.
No, that makes sense. But again, the longer track record you have of anything,
correct.
It's, a restaurant or whatever.
We always say that a home is going to do 20% higher ROI year 2 than it will year 1, solely because of reviews.
Well, okay.
Solely because of
your
reviews.
Lips to God's ears.
Yeah, 20%. Yeah, take that to the bank.
I would love to see a 20% bump on one of ours year 2.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Well, year 1, you're trying to get traction. You're building up that momentum because of the algorithms and how they work. If you're popular and your conversion rate is high, you're going to get pushed to the top of the list because Airbnb makes money every time something books. They don't make money when something doesn't book. So every time someone looks at your property and doesn't book it, your conversion rate hurts you. It comes down and it knocks down. If every time someone looks at your listing, they book it, Airbnb is like, heck yeah, because they don't want you going to Vrbo and vice versa. They want to present the best properties to you first because it's kind of like Google. They know you're not going to scroll past page 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Right? And they only have Superhost on page 1. So that's where you want to be.
All right. Tons of knowledge and nuggets there. Love it.
There's a lot to learn, right?
It really was. And like I said, she's got just the knowledge is just coming out of her head at this point. I think sometimes she gets tired of answering some of my questions. But guys, this is an ongoing series. If you've got any specific questions that you want answered, drop them in the comments. Jodi is seeing all of these, so she'll probably answer them herself. But yeah, let us know if there's anything specific that you want us to cover. We can do that too.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks.
Yes, ma'am.